Well, damn. Hi, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. And it's time for another edition of, hey, I'm going to tier out the top 10 songs of a given year according to Billboard, what they have listed as the top 10 songs of that year. We've been going through the 2010s. And now we are in our final video of the 2010s, 2019. Yeah, if you guys have digged this series, dug it, I think we can, go further into previous years, and it's been fun to do. It's been fun to do. So I think we will continue these. Good news, good vibes all around. Okay, so starting at number 10 on Billboard's top 10 singles of 2019, we have Jonas Brothers with the song Sucker. I'm not so crazy about this track. I just think it's a very generic pop rock song. No more, no less, not a whole lot of flavor on the songwriting side and the vocal side, on the instrumental side. It's just kind of a show of, and I think this is kind of the case for a lot of tracks on this particular year in this particular list. We will get into this. I think it's just kind of an example of a song whose success can be attributed mostly to the fact that its compositional elements, its aesthetic elements, its vocals are so flavorless, are so nondescript, are just so lacking in anything special or standout, that it's just going to appeal widely simply by virtue of just there not really being anything all that daring or bold or special about it. It's just kind of lowest common denominator. It's not awful, but not interesting by any stretch of the imagination. I would put it in the D row. Following this at number 9 on Billboard's list, we have Sicko Mode from Travis Scott's Astroworld. I have praised this track plenty in the past. I will praise it again right here. I love this song. It's fantastic. It's amazing. It's stellar. Love the production. Love the multiple beat switches and phrases on the song. The Drake feature is fantastic too. Genre defining. So many iconic bars and lines throughout this entire cut. I just feel like Travis Scott's ambition really kind of paid off in a track that is not only kind of progressive and adventurous, but really catchy and imaginative, colorful all around. And, I'm glad this song has seen the success that it has. I feel like it's captured a lot of hearts and minds, and it has done so deservedly. Really creative cut, one of the best trap singles of all time, in my opinion. I would put this thing really solidly in the S row. Love this track. Next on our Billboard list, we have an artist that I have not had the most praise for in the past when it's come to weekly track roundups and generally reviews. Khalid. Fans of his know that I haven't really been crazy about much of his work, mostly because I find his vocals to be a little difficult to pull out of a lineup, and I don't think his production choices are all that interesting either. But you may be happy to hear that Talk, I actually think this is a very well-written and catchy single. Very good pop and alternative R&B cut with some of the best and catchiest writing in his entire catalog. I think some of the falsetto switches on the track are quite nice too. I can at least acknowledge a good ditty when I hear it, and I think I would put this thing in the B row. It's sweet. It's sticky again. It's just a good little pop cut. Feel good, feel good, feel good. Okay, next we have one for the bad girls. It's Ariana Grande with 7 Rings. I'm not usually a big fan of very whispery, super low-key trap cuts. However, in the case of 7 Rings, this is a bop. This is a banger. Now, the reason I say what I say about, low-key trap cuts like this is because you do have a handful and you do have a few that are legitimately great, do kind of do a lot with a little. Each sound that goes into it is very well crafted and creative. It's composed really well too. It has a lot of standout moments despite it being so subtle and so low key. And even though it is a very easy formula to copy, it's not an easy formula to do well or do in such a way where the results are stupendous and truly stand out. 7 Rings, I think, is one of those instances of a standout track. I think that the beat is well put together. I think Ariana's little rapped sung vocal lines are quite catchy. I think the My Favorite Things interpolation on the track is quite creative and interesting as well. There's a lot of good things about this track. It is very low key. It is very subtle, but there's a lot of interesting, sweet, and cool little details that you can peel back with each listen that kind of makes me come back for more each time. There are other songs from this kind of thank you next era that I prefer to Seven Rings, but Seven Rings is a bop as far as singles go. I like this one quite a bit. I would put this very easily in the B row, which I'm going to do right now. There you go. Okay, following up next, we have Marshmello Bastille with the song Happier. For preparation with this video, I listened to this track multiple times, and I still really could not go ahead and describe it to you outside of Bastille having, you know, a nice husky low end on his voice, but like outside of that, there's not really a whole lot about this track that sticks out to me. It's just very run-of-the-mill. It's just very nondescript. It's just very boring. I kind of expected the production to go a bit harder, given that it is Marshmello, but this one, I guess, is trying to be a more, you know, lighthearted, tuneful ballad-type cut, but I just don't really think that's, you know, Marshmello's strength, frankly. Even if it has seen the commercial success that it has, this is just kind of one bald guy teeth opinion that, you know, you could take or leave. Again, another moment where we're hearing a track in this top 10 that is pleasant while it's on, but by no means memorable, by no means interesting, by no means daring, by no means special. In my opinion, I would put this in the D row. It's just merely okay, passable while it's on, but not anything I'm desperate to hear again after it's done. Following this, we have Wow from Post Malone. And when I heard this track, I was like, wow, this is one of his most underwritten and boring songs ever. The chorus is absolutely uninspired. The beat is really dark and atmospheric, but it doesn't really kind of have any bite to it. His verses are pretty uneventful as well. I mean, there's so many great tuneful and catchy moments off of Beer Bongs and Bentleys. Post Malone's follow-up to that album really did not bring even a fraction of the heat in terms of songwriting, in terms of production, in terms of star power on the feature end, even though I do think that Ozzy track was pretty interesting. But Wow, I just think is just kind of a snoozer, in my opinion. I mean, I get the general appeal of it. I mean, it is a kind of very much an agreeable, clubby little pop rap cut. But again, I think the success of this song lies in the fact that it just kind of checks boxes. It checks some very functional, generic boxes for dance music, for club music, for fusions of pop and hip hop. There are at least a dozen or so Post Malone tracks that I would take over this one. Okay, moving on. The next one that we're going to be talking about at number 4 on Billboard's list is the song Bad Guy from Billie Eilish, one of the most viral songs of that year. Yeah, I absolutely love this one. I actually think this track is a banger. I have praised the album that it comes from quite a few times. I will praise it again. I think it is a creatively written, catchy, and fantastically produced little pop album. Very forward-thinking, very ahead of the curve, very dark and moody, but you know, not in such a way where it feels too campy or inauthentic or anything like that. Bad Guy, I'm sure, is a song that many of you are well aware of at this point. And yeah, all around, I think it's a bop. I think you know, the beat is fantastic. I think that Billie's vocals are very eerie and kind of lure you in. I think the lyrics are kind of a mix between being dark and being cheeky and being very kind of clever, maybe a little too edgy at times here and there, but that was kind of her primary mode around this album cycle, and I think she kind of transitioned out of it a little bit pretty well with her newest LP. But for the time being that it lasted on this record, I think it was working for her, and Bad Guy is pretty much the epitome of that vibe for this album. And yeah, I just think it's a great song overall. I think it's a very kind of groundbreaking moment for pop, essentially. You know, as far as pop music goes and its main vibes and aesthetics, I think you could definitely kind of separate a pre and post Billie Eilish era vocal timbres and styles and deliveries and kind of production ideas that have become so much more popular in the wake of Bad Guy and this record. I would put this over in the S row for sure. Okay, nearing the end of the list here, we have this next single from Halsey, Without Me. I actually had to listen to this track again to kind of refresh my memory on it. I'm kind of blown away that the song is at number 3 and was as commercially successful as it was in the year that it dropped. I mean, I am and I'm not, because again, I'm just going to throw this in the D row here. I mean, this track pretty much like is exactly in line with the other three that I've thrown in this section, and it's easily one of Halsey's most generic songs in terms of chord progression, in terms of melody, and the vocals are so heavily manipulated and layered to the point where you can barely even tell that it's her singing. Like, she's a completely capable singer. She doesn't need her vocals like dolled up this much for them to pop out at the listener. There's absolutely nothing interesting or special about this song, and I think Halsey has made way better fucking stuff, especially on her latest record where she was on top of all those like Trent Reznor instrumentals. This next track over here, Sunflower, Post Malone, Sway Lee on it. Some of you have caught my opinion on this track before. I'm not crazy about it. I think, Sway's and Posty's vocals are kind of a little lifeless and a little too dolled up on this track. I think the instrumental is kind of really synthy and texture deficient. However, the song is catchy, and it does actually have parts that I can commit to memory because it is quite snappy. I respect it from a writing standpoint, but from like a performance and aesthetic standpoint, it could be a lot better. It's kind of a popular soundtrack song. I kind of feel like you have one of those that hit every once in a while. It's just kind of a part of the natural order of commercial music, I'd say. I would put this in the C row. Not bad. If you're vibing with it, I get why. Okay, and finally, a lot of you would not be surprised, of course, to see this one in the mix. It is Old Town Road. Lil Nas X, the biggest song of this year and the biggest single run of any new song, with how many weeks it was at #1. Absolutely insane. Tons of remixes as well. It's like this track was an insane fucking social experiment that somehow went over really, 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 really well, and it's just kind of a gift that continues to keep on giving. Very fun track, very funny track. Lil Nas X kills it on the vocals and the verses. Love the country and hip hop fusion going on in the song as well. And I just think the song was a phenomenon, a cultural phenomenon, and it deserved the attention that it got because, again, it was very entertaining. It was very fun. I mess with it heavy to this day. Loved it when I first heard it. Was not so crazy about some of the remixes to immediately come out, but I sort of see the purpose they served in terms of bringing more attention to the track and some of the controversy around it, straddling the borders between hip hop and country music. The track brings joy. The track lifts spirits. I think it's everything that a pop-leaning song should be in many ways. And while I do love it, simultaneously, I am very glad that Lil Nas X didn't kind of pigeonhole himself into something along these lines. I'm glad that he continued to branch out artistically, try different things, do different things. I think ultimately that has paid off really well with more fantastic songs and singles on the Montero record. But this song and everything that dropped around it, I think will continue to remain a fond little memory of a time, of an era, of a beginning. And I would put it very solidly in the S row. So there you go. Those are my groupings for the year of 2019. We have some S's. We have some B's, we have a C, and we have some very generic ones down in the D row that I just don't find all that intriguing. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments. Did you love these tracks? Hate them? Why? What do you think I should do next in terms of a year? Maybe start off with the 2000s, kind of work my way from the beginning to the end of those. Let me know. You're the best. I will see you guys in the next video. Another one over here next to my head. You can click on that or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, 2019 Singles Billboard of Forever.